Good afternoon, everybody. We've got a couple of people that joined early already. Welcome to the webinar today. Maybe while we're waiting for the rest of the people to join on the hour, if you want to maybe drop us a message along, telling us where you're from, that'll be quite interesting. Yeah, while we're waiting, guys, I see there's a number of people that joined already. We're just giving time. We'll start on the hour with the session. Welcome to the session so long. If you're now new, you can let us know where you're from. It will be quite interesting. We've got people from all over the world that showed interest in the webinar, so it'll be good to see who's joining. Can you recognize a few names here in the list? Louis, welcome to you. Here, Nadia. Rufin, excellent. It's 2 minutes left and we'll get started, guys. We've got quite a full program, so we'll start on the hour. Make sure we've got enough time for everybody to get through the content. Yeah, I can see we're getting closer to the hour now. 1 minute left and the participant is joining quite quickly. Good to see you guys. See a couple of regular names here that's joining us. Pleased to see you all, guys. Yeah, if you want to pop here in the chat message where you're from, it will be interesting for us to see which part of the world you guys are joining from. Oh, Scott, welcome here as well. Excellent. One minute left, guys, then we'll get going. Broadcasting here from Cape Town. I can tell you it's quite warm here today. So don't know where in the world you are. See Jan from up in Sweden, so I'm sure it's a bit colder there with you, Jan. Excellent. Yeah. So guys, it's on the hour. Very welcome everybody that's joining us today. I think we're going to start. Just now. We've got quite a lot of content that we want to share with you guys, and just want to make sure that we don't run out of time. So maybe before we get started, just a couple of administrative things that we want to highlight for those that would be interested in the material that we're using. Both the recording and the slides will be available. So you don't need to make screen grabs or screen recordings or so. That we'll do for you. And then again, very, very much welcome to everybody here. This is going to be a quarterly event from now on, where we share, the latest features that's been added to our product suite, and also give you a bit of a glimpse in terms of what's upcoming. And I must upfront say that this is mainly aimed at clients that understand and use Anki already, to stay up to speed with new features being added. But we also will be running a couple of other webinars. So if there's anything that you're particularly interested in, please let us know. And that can help us also shape the future webinars that we cover. There's definitely intent to focus deeper on certain areas of the products, to talk through entire business processes as an example. Due to the lack of time as well, we hope to have time for Q&A afterwards. But if you have a question throughout the session, please pop a message into the message box. The different product owners in our team will look at those and try and answer it as best we can. So that we can also get some feedback throughout the process. So while we on this first slide, just to highlight for those of you that are not aware, we're quite pleased. Last year we had an assessment done by Rodantics again, and OnKey EAM was again voted into the leader quadrant of the green quadrant, with a couple of the other EAM leaders. So we're very pleased with that result. I'm quite excited to share with you, what's the newest things that we've been adding ever since that assessment was done. Maybe also something else we want to highlight, when we speak about the product, we often speak about the EMS itself, connect, action, insights, and integrate. These are just different components of the same OnKey. Connect is the part that deals with IoT connectivity to assets. Action is, for our specialized apps that sits on top of the core product. Insights is for the BI side of things. And then the integrate part is to deal with integrations of the product into other aspects of the client's enterprise architecture. So in terms of our agenda today, what we'll be looking at, quick team introduction as we start. I'll give you a quick overview of the product suite, mainly for clients that are maybe new to the product suite. And since we are going to be speaking specifically about features, that are very focused, just a quick overview of everything that's covered in the OnKey product. And then we're going to go through the different functional areas of the product. Each of the product owners for those sections will address those areas for us. Right. Then our panel for today, very pleased to welcome our different product owners for each of the sections. So myself, Stefan Swanepoel, I'm head of the product management team. So these wonderful guys and girls all work with me in terms of setting our product strategy and making sure that the features that we build is aligned with what our clients want. But Johan Vermeulen, he's the product owner for our core OnKey EMS. Maurits looks after the action, which is the special apps, as I said, and the insights part, the BI. Darren looks after connect, which is the IoT section, connecting our assets to the sensors and then linking that up to the EAM itself. And JP looks after our integration product, and he will also today be speaking a little bit about the intelligence part that we bring into the product. And then lastly, Simone. She looks after the different product verticals, that we built in across the entire product, to streamline the deployment and use of the product. Right, so to quickly then go through, the different aspects of OnKey. So OnKey these days is really a platform through which you can manage your assets, and it's got a couple of enterprise asset management and enterprise asset performance management functionalities inside of it. So in there, the intelligent asset register, where you keep track of your assets, maintenance plans, geospatial data, operating scenarios, calendars for the assets, condition monitoring, all those things sits in the intelligent asset register. Then the asset operation part really looks at the operating parts of your assets, meters, how it's consuming time, and then also looking at in future adding the OEE asset performance sections will also fit under this area. Then obviously financials, keeping track of costs and budgets, and making provision for different international currencies, etc. It's dealt with under the financials part, to be able to really track your asset lifecycle cost in a fair amount of detail. The material management part, which deals with interfacing to your ERP for material transactions. Also for stock takes and keeping track of the materials if you use the OnKey material management module. All that sits within the material management part. And then the different resources necessary to execute maintenance work, whether it be human resources or special tools, the rates for those, the calendars of usage, SLAs, all those type of things sits under the resource management module. And then the important part, obviously, the work management, everything from new work requests coming into the system, the planning of work orders, the forecasting of due preventive maintenance tasks, task detail, all those things that relates to the work that needs to get done. That sits under the work management module. And then lastly, there's a whole bunch of general configurations to make the product suitable for large organizations to segregate your business into different sites or locations, high level of configurability around roles and permissions for different users. All those things sits under the general aspect of the product. So this is more or less the business areas that's covered by the product. In terms of then how that's presented to users and integrating with other parts of the system, first important part is the user interface, and we've got a couple of different ways in which the user interface is presented. And then at the other end, integrating the OnKey product into your enterprise landscape. The OnKey product's got an extensive set of APIs, so everything that you do through the top-end user interface, you can actually also do programmatically via the API. And then, we know from experience over time that often case clients need some assistance and help with building the integrations between the API and other parts of the system. So we've got an extensive integration capability run by our OnKey integration team on the JP, and that sits on the side, so we can build custom integrations for clients. And there's also a bunch of standard off-the-shelf integrations that we offer. Then connecting to your assets, so the whole edge to cloud connectivity and advanced processing is dealt with in OnKey Connect. There's a whole bunch of standard dashboards and reports that ships with the product that contains asset management best practice KPIs and various management information, packaged to be used straight off the system. And then also, quite advanced analytics, for the users that really want to start drilling deep into their data and seeing trends, etc., dealt through OnKey Insights. And then lastly, over the last 2 years or so, we've been adding and experimenting with machine learning and artificial intelligence, and we've got a couple of pilot projects that we've tackled in that area. And JP will also speak a little bit about that later on. Then in terms of how the product's set up, this picture is just trying to show how these different things fit together. So in the first place, as a system of record, OnKey serves as a place where you can keep all the asset information that's relevant to your organization in a way where the data is well looked after. There's clear rules and everything to manage your master data, and also govern the information that goes in and out of the system through really good permission structures and good APIs with good business logic that makes sure you don't pollute your data with low quality data that feeds into the system. And while we're on this is, in our regard, very important capability that even in these days of AI and LLMs and various things like that will remain very important, to have a very solid system to keep your data in, and that you can trust, that your data won't be exposed to the incorrect people, and that it's all kept and well maintained. So that's the system of record part of the product. And then there's various user interfaces. I'm not going to go so deep into each of them. On the top left is for the core product, and that's a small block, but it's actually a big part of the user interface to expose everything that you need to do in the system in terms of configuration, work management, etc., through a user interface that's ready to run on various browsers. And then the red parts are the focused apps that Maurits will be speaking at. I'm not going to go through each of them. And then we've got a whole bunch of different analytics apps for work insights, financials, asset operation, asset reliability, and then also custom BI apps that can be built on top of the product. And then there's standard dashboards and reports, and also the ability to, within the product, build your own custom reports through a web browser interface. Then very important, as we said, to integrate with the rest of your landscape, extensive API for the product, all standards-based, well-documented, and documentation around the database and all the tables and everything, how they relate to each other, different data entities, etc. Bottom left then is the different components of the IoT side of things, to connect your assets and sensors to OnKey. Deal with device management, and this is a part that we've recently been using quite extensively for our asset health management services that we offer to clients as well. So this is also something that we use extensively in our own services. In the middle, and this is just a small subset of the integrations that we've been building over the period of the last few years, with different ERPs, different other systems, that we integrate the OnKey with. And these, like I said, contain both a couple of standard and then various custom integrations. And then lastly, this is a small list of a couple of intelligence components that we've been building and prototyping. JP will say more about that at a later stage. So this is really just an overview then of everything that's under the OnKey hood, in terms of what's offered as a product. And we're going to go into detail later on now. Now, with this complex picture, what we found is that for clients to quickly get off the ground with using the system, it can be quite a daunting task to configure everything. So what we started to put together, and this is the part that Simon will be speaking about, is a couple of product packs for industry verticals that really comes with pre-configured information to speed up the configuration of the system and quickly get value out of OnKey. So that's then it. We're going to now step over to the first part in terms of OnKey Plus, the core EAM, and we'll go into that detail, with Juan. Before we go there, this is very quick now. Information around the different products, you can find there's a link to our website, and there you can find a lot more detail on each of these different products. Okay, so now over to you, Juan. This is now for our core product. This is the where we really keep all the core information around asset management, and Juan's going to take us through some information. I already said quite a bit about the product. Right, Juan, thanks. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. So my name is Juan van Meulen. Stefan gave me a brief introduction. So I'm the product owner of OnKey Plus, the core system. So I'm going to talk a bit about what we've been doing for the last few months and what we will be doing in the next few months. So one of the exciting features that dropped end of last year was a service level agreement feature. So very popular feature with many of our clients, especially in the facilities maintenance clients, where when work orders are created, that we can measure, monitor, and manage those work orders. So it's a feature that takes hold of a work order, looks at all the business processes that needs to happen on it, starts measuring it. It tries and estimate when it should be completed. And then there's certain triggers where if it gets to a certain percentage, then emails will be sent out to escalate. So it's a way to measure, but also to manage work actively and see when things are going not as planned. We dropped that end of last year. It immediately got took up by quite a few clients, and what an exciting feature. The next one, Stefan, the embedded dashboard. So we also try and bring more power to the user right there and then. So one of the items we built is to embed the dashboards in OnKey itself, so the end user can actually have access to it. It's in an interactive dashboard. You can drill down and interact with it, and whatever dashboards you want to set up in the reporting part of the system, you can bring much closer to the system and just have the people interact with it right there and then. The next one, Stefan, geospatial. So geospatial, we had it in our previous product and we rebuilt it over to the current one. Very excited about it because it obviously is going to start making use of the post GIS part of our system, which is very powerful. So we're only touching the top part of it. The main intent initially is to understand the location of your asset, of your physical asset, and you can define it by a point, a line, or a polygon. We also extend it into the linear asset part that as we had in our previous product. The next ones are actually exciting because we want to obviously go into more, giving more power to the end user when they start planning work. So then we can start looking at geofencing and optimal route planning. For now, currently, the first part is just you defining your asset on a map itself. But as mentioned, it's a point, a line, or a polygon, and with reference assets if you want to go the linear way. Next one, Stefan. Okay, health indicators. So as the system gets used more, the system is built on quite rich telemetry, and we're just starting to expose that telemetry to the close to the end user or the user of the system. And that's indicators like, do you have a file store and you reaching its limit, up to there's some jobs that are running and we think it's too slow, or maybe there's notifications that you thought that was sent out but it got stuck. So it's just surfacing many of the health indicators and letting the person know that that something might not be right, and the system administrator or should go and look at those items and see what's wrong. It also looks at slightly processes just around the system as well. So is something going slow? Is your database, the response to the database getting a bit slow and needs attention? The next one is feature again. It's multi-level approval, so it's approval workflows, which is a pattern we're probably going to put onto any transactional type of feature or item. Currently did on requisitions, and that's where you want more than one person to approve a transaction. You can set up approval roles, and depending on which site or which area or geolocation you are, different people are linked to that role, and they're supposed to then approve this requisition. Only if all approve, or there's certain options you have, all should approve, or only one or the top person should approve, then only does the whole item get approved. There's also rejection facilities feature, so if it gets rejected, the whole process starts again. Document access, we got two types of documents in OnKey Plus. The one is a document attachment, which is very closely linked to the record itself, which is normally things like invoices and quotes. Then we've got document links, which is more like user manuals, reusable documentation. So at the end, the asset register becomes quite rich with documentation that's lying on the asset register itself, how maintenance plans needs to be done, user manuals and how to do certain things. And that feature just, it's optional that you can switch that on, and it will draw some of that information to the work order itself. So the person actually doing the work in the field then have access to a subset of that documentation that you've defined. So that we've added. I think that was the highlight, Stefan, of the last 2 or 3 months. What is coming in the next 2 or 3 months is bulk import capabilities. Was something we had in our previous version, but is dearly wanted again. So it's just a feature to streamline process adding of and updating large volumes of information. And it's bulk importing of information. We'll probably do it through the system itself, so that authentication is done by the person that's logged in, and the change log is all registered against that. But it's a way to get a lot of data in, and we'll probably extend it that to ease it, that you can get data out, manipulate it, say in an Excel spreadsheet, and then bring it back in again quickly. Asset warranty, that's also a nice feature. So the end part of that is if you create a reactive work order on an asset and there is still an active warranty on it, then a warning or a strict mode will stop the person from generating that work order. He or she will also then have access to warranty information, like who is the company that's got the warranty, who should you call to have this asset fixed. So you shouldn't try and fix it yourself. It is under warranty, and it kind of brings all those that information that normally sits quite a bit away from the person doing the work, just a bit closer, so that they can know about things like asset warranties when the asset breaks down late at night in factory or something. And then observability, that's an add-on from the asset health. Stefan showed the previous slide, that asset health, where we show certain things that are going slightly not as planned. And to assist that and be slightly more proactive, we're just going to push up the observability where I can put names and email addresses against that in some of those items, saying that if this is deteriorating, you should probably call your system administrator and who's the email address, and they'll start getting an email saying that something's deteriorating and you need to go and look at the health of the system. So it's just a proactive way to assist all the supporting people and supporting groups around the product to assist proactively before something really starts going wrong. I think that's it, Stefan.
Excellent. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much, John. And maybe just for everybody's sake, these are just 3 that we highlighted. There's a long list of things that's also in the release, but these are, for the sake of time, that we just wanted to highlight some important features that people are waiting for. Right, then it's next over now to the OnKey Action side, Moritz.
Thanks, Stefan. And
on to you.
Thanks, Stefan. And I think in COVID, I learned to talk a lot. So I'm going to try and keep this one short. I've highlighted about 5 features that I think are noteworthy. But as you said, now with what's coming in OnKey Plus and what has been done, it's only a subset, and there's a whole host of other features that are quite exciting and noteworthy as well. So we can go to the first one. Thanks, Stefan. And you'll see that the majority of the slides that I made are for the Field Engineer app. So that's an offline capable mobile app. And it's probably our biggest or most widely used app. And you'll see a lot of the features that I highlighted are in that app. And we're really trying to advance it, optimize it. You'll see that a lot of the things we're doing are focused on an improved user experience, whether that's better UI or a simplified process, or both. So the first one that we want to highlight is just some additional labor recording functionality that we added. So we had a few requests where people would like to add labor retrospectively. So let's say they weren't able to use the app, or they were at a remote site and they didn't download the work order beforehand. So they maybe still had a paper work order and they would like to add historic labor. That's not possible in the app. You can also fix historic labor. So if you, for example, said that I recorded, let's say I started on a Friday afternoon, worked for 2 hours, but forgot to pause the app. And then on Monday, get back to work. And I realized I've got an excess of 48 hours on my work order. You can now go back and fix that. And as you can see, well, you can't see the old UI, but the UI has been modernized quite significantly. And there's also the ability to still add labor for additional staff members, historic labor for additional staff members, and adding labor using QR codes. Thanks, everyone. And then the next one is a bit of a pilot project, which I think has a lot of potential, where we are integrating with a Bluetooth probe. So from the app itself, you can scan for compatible devices. The one that we developed this for, and that I almost explicitly want to just mention, is the Translogic TLGX2 device. Although we tried to build it quite generic, I don't want the sales guys in the call to think we can integrate with any Bluetooth device. But how it basically works is that you can connect to that device, and then we've built a dedicated workflow in the Field Engineer app itself, where you can then record monitoring points of that type. The example that we used here is tread depth and tire pressure. So you would basically open the monitoring point or open the task, which asks you to record the monitoring point, click on measure, and then that measurement will be sent from the Bluetooth device. And I think, although this is a pilot, I think there's a lot of potential for further enhancements of this feature and supporting more devices as we get to know them better. Thanks, everyone. Okay, and this is probably the biggest feature that we're launching or have launched in the past couple of months, is the asset verification functionality. So as part of the asset identification verification drive, we first focus on the verification part. So verifying verifying certain attributes and details of the asset. So per asset type, you can set up certain fields, whether it's user-defined fields, attributes, or just core asset or component fields. You can now set up those in OnKey itself. You can also set the verification frequency, and then you can have dedicated work orders where technicians go out to site to verify a certain site's assets, or you can even specify you only want to verify certain asset types. But in that process, you can then have almost a project where you verify and update your asset register, or you can make this part of routine maintenance. So if someone's going to site in any case to fix a petrol pump, for example, while they're busy fixing the petrol pump, they can be prompted to just make sure that certain fields, such as the perceived condition or the serial number, the QR code, whatever it might be, is still what it is according to your asset register. And if it's not, they can update those fields. And if they can't do it, they also need to specify a reason for not being able to do the verification. Thanks, everyone. Okay, and then requisitions. We obviously working, I'm saying obviously as if everyone knows, but there's a material manager app as well that I'll touch on in the next slide. But we found that in the requisitioning process, it can be quite tedious if you need to add a lot of items to your requisition, and especially integrating that with offline capabilities. So that entire process got a brand new overhaul. So you can now create requisitions in the Field Engineer app. So they'll be in a draft status. You can add items. You can add them by scanning the items. And once you're happy with that, you can queue it for submission to OnKey Plus. Once that's in OnKey Plus, it syncs back to the device, and then issuing can start happening from the Material Manager application. And an overall, just as I said, brand new UI and user experience there. And then the last one, once again, focusing on some of the scanning capabilities. There's been a big drive on scanning, adding scanning to certain areas in the product. And the one is then in the Material Manager app. We've now got a mobile focus or a dedicated mobile experience. So it's still the same app, but if you open it in a mobile device or on a mobile device, there's a new workflow for requisition issuing and returns. So you basically locate your requisition, and then within that requisition, you can scan items using a new and improved barcode and QR code scanner. And then there's a dedicated page with stepper buttons, for example, to make it easy to count. You can click the max button, and as you scan items, it also increments the number of stock items being issued. So you can basically scan as you take them out of the little bin, you can scan them, and then it reduces the amount in the bin and increases the amount on the requisition. There's also the ability to then obviously return those in the same workflow. Then some planned features and additional improvements that are coming in the next couple of months. Firstly, is a new designed login flow. This speaks to what I mentioned earlier about the improved user experience, trying to really make it easy to do anything that you need to do in the app. And if you're using guest users or anonymous users, then there's also the OTP functionality. So we can at least confirm, even though you're not a full-fledged user, we can confirm that you do actually have access to the email address that you entered. Then we had a very insightful session with guys from Rethink, who did a bit of a UI overview and audit of the Field Engineer app. And out of that, we've received some additional comments and suggestions. So we're going to start implementing some of those and really, as I said, try and make it as easy to do what you need to do using the app. Then asset identification. So as I mentioned, we already worked on the verification part, but in the identification part, we'll now add the ability in the Field Engineer app to add new assets. And based on the asset types, you would also need to fill in certain information to make sure that your asset register is really up to date and has all the required fields filled in. Then adding mobile focused UIs for receipts and stock tags. So as I mentioned, for the requisitions, being able to issue and return items, that same functionality is now being extended to stock tags and to receipts. Then just a general improvement is just being able to specify certain document types that people need to upload. With those document types, we can have max image sizes. If it's not small enough, we can try to compress it. The user can try to compress it. So really trying to focus on the attachment process in the apps. Obviously, we've got things like previews as well, but giving that entire process a modernization overall to really make it feel like you're able to do what you need to do. And then hopefully in the next session, I'll be able to tell you guys a bit more about the Maintenance Plan Developer app. So that's a guided tactics development tool, mainly built for our advisory team to facilitate tactics development at clients, but definitely something that clients would also be able to use in their own capacity and really accelerate the process of getting maintenance tactics into OnKey Plus. That's it from my side, Stefan.
Brilliant, thanks, Moritz. Switching over then to Darren and the OnKey Connect side. Darren, you're welcome to take us through this one.
Thank you, Stefan. Thanks. Yeah, so to assist you with your Industry 4.0 projects, we've got IoT features and capabilities to collect data from your assets and then drive your condition usage or predictive-based maintenance tactics. Thank you, Stefan. First of all, our IoT Edge Gateway software. Now, this gateway software can be installed on a Linux server running the Ubuntu operating system. Now, we can either host this for you on your behalf or you can host it yourself, but it's responsible for collecting large volumes of data, process that data using complex algorithms if required, and then ultimately transfer that data to the enterprise asset management application. Now we've released three modules or interfaces Now, the first one being Modbus, which industry experts should be familiar with and is widely adopted and used in industry. And this is used to interface to your systems to collect data and then process it, and then drive your operational efficiency. And you can also reduce time, which is realized by your real-time monitoring. And then another popular protocol that we can also interface to is the MQTT. So the benefit of this is a lightweight messaging protocol with low bandwidth usage. And this is also used with your distributed assets types of use cases, and you can quite scale up with this. And then lastly, your CSV model. So there are quite a few legacy or limited industrial systems that don't have all of these interfaces. And we've got a module where we can interface to CSV sheets and collect that data and then transform it, and then also make that available in Onki to trigger your maintenance flows. Thank you. Okay, the second product that I want to mention is our data lake visualization and monitoring features. So this helps you to make informed decisions by gaining insights. So the first one is our data lake solution. Now we've got a solution that automatically exports your IoT data to a data lake in batches. And this enables your visualization if you want to build real-time dashboards, and then also enable your analytics. The next one is dashboards. So Juan did mention this in terms of our reports and dashboards module in Onki Plus, but this is used for our real-time visualization for our IoT data, and you can do in-depth analysis of your historical data as well. And then the last one, system monitoring. So these are just added value services, and where you need to be notified if your monitoring devices are offline, and it creates alarms inside Onki to ensure that your monitoring solutions are always running and it's reliable. The second one is just also a data consistency report. So this just ensures that if you expect a certain amount of messages to arrive in Onki, this also just reports exactly on that to show you what that consistency is. And then lastly, we've got our alarm summary, and that's the picture that I'm showing there in the system monitoring. It's a alarm summary notification feature to every hour notify you of all of your active alarms. And then lastly, we've got end-to-end solutions. So this is used by our asset health management department. So these solutions combine lots of different components, such as hardware that we certify. There's cloud processing involved, visualizations built, applications, mobile applications, web applications built, and then obviously also integrations. So the first one is the generator monitoring product. Now, this one has been running for quite some time now, but we've recently just added the capability to also monitor your energy telemetry to gain insights into your energy usage. Thanks, Stefan. And then a second one, we also do environment monitoring of cold rooms and freezers, etc. And this was just a minor improvement in terms of the visualization of that type of data. And then lastly, electrical monitoring. We've certified current sensor technology, which is wireless, to also monitor the current consumption of some of your assets. And now this can have many different applications, but our asset health management team is currently piloting this technology at a retail shop, and where we look after chip and pressure fryers. Thank you, and that's it for the end-to-end solutions. So then what's coming up? So we've got, we're looking at implementing a switchgear monitoring solution, which will be using our IoT Edge Gateway software. And this is where we look at monitoring the partial discharge activity of your terminations at your switchgear. So this is the heavy industrial type of assets. And the second one is, so we want to expand our support in terms of the types of IoT devices where we can collect data from. And the next one that we are looking at is the Sonoff brand of devices. So this is also for your distributed assets type of client to support those devices as well. And that also includes temperature monitoring, CTs or current transformers, and lots of other sensors in that range of IoT devices. And then lastly, we are working on a driver module to transform raw data in the clouds if your edge device is not capable of doing any processing on the edge, and we can assist with transforming that data. And that's it for IoT. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Darren. Yeah, I think important part of the product in terms of, as Darren said, on Industry 4 and really connecting up your system to your assets, making sure that you automate those workflows. And this is an ever-expanding set of functionality in terms of different sensors and cloud processing. And I think the part around the real-time dashboards and visualization is something that we're certainly excited about. And the fact that it is now within your Anki Plus user interface, you can see those. So it's not an external view that you have, it's in the product. Right, so now we're going to move over to our Anki Integrate side. JP, if you're ready, then you can take us through the integration side, please.
Thanks, Stefan, for the chance. Yeah, I'd like to just go through a few of our integrations that we have delivered in the past few months, a few highlights of integrations that we've delivered. Our sort of motto or slogan at Integrate is integrating Anki with the rest of the world, and that's really where we shine, I think, integrating Anki's data to and from systems in every part of the world. So yeah, let's jump into some of the solutions, or some of the solutions that we've delivered in the past few months. Firstly, the Sage X3 solution that we have built for a specific client. So it's a custom built integration that we developed between Anki Plus and Sage X3, where essentially we align the master data from X3 into Anki so that whoever works in Anki has a clear and accurate picture of the stock and the master data that is set up and maintained in Anki and in X3. Then there's also transactional data being integrated to and from X3 from Anki side, as well as labor information on work that was executed being integrated into X3 to keep track of labor time spent on certain areas of their plants. So quite a big integration in terms of materials data, as well as typical labor and labor costing spent by artisans on site. The next one would be our SAP integration, or a recent integration that we did with SAP for a client. And in this case, the work execution, as well as the planning and the work execution, is done in Anki. And the client has had two instances of SAP, one where they actually manage the stock and the warehousing of certain spares in, and they had a second instance or module of SAP where they then use the information from Anki, the spares that we used, the labor that we used, and spent on those work orders to then actually build towards the client. So a great example of Anki being the master of this work management type process, and then integration coming in to say, well, let's have a view on how much space we're using. Let's integrate the space that we need, and then at the end of the day, the cost of these work orders needs to be invoiced to our clients, and that's where Anki Integrate played a vital role in getting that data through to the applicable SAP instance. The last big highlight that I want to spend a minute on is the Anki Plus Syspro integration. This is a standard integration, essentially plug and play between Anki and Syspro 7 and 8. And there it's a typical materials interface where, again, we integrate the master data, warehousing, suppliers, stock details, stock levels, etc., from the Syspro side into Anki, so that the engineering manager, engineers, artisans, whatever, the planner can have a good view of actually what's available in Anki, plan the work, execute the work, complete the work. And then as part of that work management process, the spares request, whether that be stocked items that the client actually has on site, or items that are required as part of work to be done that needs to be sourced or procured outside. Those transactions are all integrated to Syspro. The transactions are go through that life cycle of procurement, and essentially when those items are received at the warehouse or used as part of the work, we then integrate that back to OnKey so that we can have a clear picture of what the costs were associated to the work order and essentially associated to the asset, and at the end of the day, to that site. So that one is ready. If you have Syspro, or you're going to be using Syspro soon, and you have OnKey Plus in place, talk to us so that we can integrate those two for a complete business process. Features that we are going to be implementing very soon is another X3 integration for a client. We are also looking at a Business Central integration where we typically integrating quoting and invoicing type information between the two. So Business Central on the one side, OnKey Plus on the other side, and having that ability to request a quote, have it approved, have it paid, and all of that financial type integration going through the two systems. We want to also expand on our standard Syspro integration to handle multiple Syspro databases where OnKey is multi-sited. So we're busy with technical analysis on that now to expand further on that integration. And then lastly, an integrated user management interface to pull data that is set up and configured in an Okta identity provider through to OnKey so that the user flow and user management is eased on configuration. Thank you, Stefan.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks, JP. And I think, as you also said, for OnKey operating as a best of breed EAM system, these days with digital transformation and one expecting smooth business processes flowing across different applications, this integration capability really critical. And I think we, through the early slide that I shared as well, shown that there's, great potential in terms of integrating with many different systems. So we'll keep you updated with those. And make sure you also take note of this in terms of your landscape where you're currently using OnKey. Whenever there's manual transfer of information necessary, this is the route to go.
And
Okay,
Stefan, maybe just to add on that, I saw John answering a question in the chat earlier. You don't have to have OnKey integrate to be able to integrate with OnKey Plus. OnKey Plus is API first. So that means anyone with the skills and the knowledge to do so can integrate data to and from OnKey as they please. So that's the win that you have with OnKey in terms of integration.
Absolutely, a good point to make. I mean, and that's where the APIs comes in, and we have clients that integrated their own mobile apps or the enterprise applications with the system, through the API. So yeah, that's quite important. That you don't need the integration solution, but if you get stuck, we're there to help with that. All right, now we're going to move over to Simone, and she'll take us through the sector-specific solutions. Simone, if you're ready, then I'll zoom out again, and you can take us through these ones. Thanks.
Thank you, Stefan. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to share with you Pragma's sector-specific solutions. We are busy packaging CMS solutions for industry verticals to enable standardized implementations. These solutions consist of three main elements. Firstly, the heart and soul of the solutions basically would be a pre-configured template database per the industry. This facilitates the implementation of an accurate asset register. Then secondly, a best practice efficient work management process, which is executed with the use of the apps that Maurits took you through. And then lastly, end user documentation and training material that's ready to be used. Thanks, Stefan. Right, so our first sector-specific solution that I'd like to take you through is for the asset-intensive facilities. This is really aimed at our mining and heavy manufacturing clients, and this is also our latest and newest solution that we've recently launched. So firstly, with regards to the pre-configured template database, this database includes a pre-configured asset care plan library from which the clients can select the relevant asset types that are based on their facility requirements. These asset types have been pre-configured with components and maintenance tasks and are ready to be used. In addition to that, other pre-configured elements in the system include work order statuses, allowed status changes, types of work, asset importances, failure pre-configured data, for example, failure modes, failure mechanisms, failure causes, failure and repair types, trades, notification templates, and user roles. This really enables the client to start using OnKey from a very early point where they only need to provide their asset register data and user data, and then OnKey is ready to be used. Secondly, a best practice work management process has been developed with an optional space management sub-process. Once again, the client can start using that immediately, and each work order progresses through a series of pre-configured statuses throughout its life cycle. Thank you, Stefan. And lastly, the solution contains a whole host of supported documentation. One of the main components is a pre-configured standards manual that describes to the client the master data that is available within their database. It also includes the data that the client needs to provide, which basically is just the asset register data and user data. And then it references the various supporting documentation that supports the solution. In addition to that, we've got role-based training material for each solution as well. Okay, Stefan, so commercial facilities, that is our existing sector-specific solution aimed at our commercial facilities sector. We've made some additions and improvements to this feature, and we recently released that. Firstly, we improved the way that we've configured profiles within the system. So a profile enables the users to set up a view to customize the way that the specific user groups see the OnKey user interface. We've preset up various operational roles, for example, super users, planners, supervisors, and artisan technicians. And based on each user's operational role, they will see the system in a different way, configured for their specific use. Thanks, Stefan. Secondly, we made improvements in the way our task descriptions are described. All references to frequency have been removed, which means that if the client needs to update the frequency of tasks, there's no need to edit the task descriptions. And lastly, as and when it's required, new asset types are added based on client requirements. We recently added a new asset type for firefighting equipment, which includes components for that asset type, as well as asset care plans, tasks to maintain that equipment. Stefan, thank you. And then features and additions for the next release. Firstly, around the asset-intensive facilities, the mining and manufacturing solution. We are busy expanding the asset care plan library to include large asset systems comprising sub-assemblies, for example, drill rigs and excavators. And then around both of these solutions, we are busy working on a template library for notifications, where the client can just select the notifications that they want to receive based on system transactions, and there's no need to set these up before you can start using them. And then I'd like to highlight, I see there is already a question around that. I'd like to highlight that while the sector-specific solutions are really aimed at new implementations, existing customers can also benefit from some of the features of these solutions. This includes various elements of this pre-configured template databases, including the asset care plans, the user roles, the failure analysis data, and the notification templates. Thank you, Stefan.
Brilliant, thank you, Simon. Yeah, and I think as you indicated, this is really expediting the implementation of new systems quite substantially. And then, as we're adding content, making it available, and we're going to get better at that as well in terms of making some of these content available to the existing clients, to roll into your business processes. Yeah, and then expanding on the libraries as well for maintenance plans and asset structures, which is often something that takes quite a while to set up. And there will obviously be the need to further enhance that for your specific site, but a great set of information to get started as a new Anki user in that case. And this obviously, Maurits mentioned the maintenance plan development capability, that app that we're building. We're looking forward to to integrating that as well with these maintenance plans that will make it possible to in future quite easily visualize and tap into a library of maintenance plans into your existing Anki. So go watch this space for more action in that regard. So Simon, thanks a lot. Great work. And then lastly, we're gonna hand over to JP, who's also these days going to take responsibility for the different intelligence components within our product suite. There's a bunch of areas where artificial intelligence and language models and machine learning and so can play a role. And we're working on identifying which are the pilot projects and proof of concepts that we've done to up to now, where we're going to work those into the product, and JP is going to take the lead on that. So yeah, JP, if you can take us through these ones, please. Thanks.
Yeah, sure, Stefan. Exciting stuff. Anki intelligence, and this is really the umbrella of all things Gen AI and ML for the Anki product. And as Stefan said, there's been a few proof of concepts and initiatives that we've already put in place in the past couple of years. And we're really now starting to move into a place where we productionize some of these initiatives so that we can use it either internally, externally, or specifically for our clients in the product suite. So I'm going to go into some of the detail and some of the examples of what we are aiming to do in the next few months. And the first one is something that we call the contractor overspending anomaly detection. So it's a long phrase, and there's a lot in there. What it's about is trying to understand which line items typically delivered by a contractor on site for our clients could be an anomaly. So what are we typically spending on material for a certain type of work, for a certain asset type, for a certain type of request? What are we spending on ports? What are we spending on labor? And what are we spending on travel typically? And is this new invoice that is locked by a contractor possibly an anomaly? And that's all driven by a trained machine learning model in the background and integrated into the business process of the contractor submitting their invoices in the work portal as part of the action architecture that Maurits touched on, the approver actually approving that work or rejecting that work in the work portal, and the core system of register still being Anki, and the data being used to train this model still being Anki. So there's this model that we're trying to set up that will give you an idea of which items or which line items that's submitted by the contractor is possible anomalies, so that you can decide if this is actually something that you want to approve as part of the invoice that is logged. So that's one of the exciting first ones based on a machine learning infrastructure or backend. Then the second one is the translator service. So of course, there's Anki has the ability to translate the user interface as well as various phrases inside of the data that you have set up in Anki to different languages. So the infrastructure is already there, and the ability to do that in Anki is already in place, and clients use that on a global scale already. What we want to try and solve is the ad hoc type translation requests that clients might have, or that new clients require as part of a global rollout strategy, where their contractors might want to work in their native language, and they want to see the on-key user interface or the work that they are doing as part of their native language. And what we're trying to go for here is a integrated translator service where you can decide to which language you want to translate either the user interface or the phrases inside of on-key, with the added benefit of making it enterprise asset management specific. So using that domain knowledge that we have available and actually giving that as context for the translator service so that it translates a specific phrase or a specific word in the EAM context. So not just translating it and it looks like a version 1 Google Translate option, actually having the ability to translate that with the context of enterprise asset management. And then the last one that we are heading up in the next couple of months is having a Q&A type interface with the help file. So most of you might have used the help file in the past or have seen it in the past, and there's a lot of very nice curated information for the on-key user interface and how to interact with on-key. So the idea for this is to have a model trained on this type of data and then giving the user access to the data with a typical natural language type processing effect. So asking a question and the model understanding the knowledge that you have in the help file typically, and then giving you an intelligent answer based on what you are seeing there. So this is the type of interesting things that's coming. There's a whole list of other initiatives that I'm not sharing here now that we're still busy prioritizing and still going to be engaging with clients and subject matter experts with. So if you are keen on joining that conversation, reach out to us. Let's open up the conversation for some of the other initiatives. This is some of the core ones that we think will add value in the short term.
Brilliant. Thanks, JP. And maybe on the first one, just to highlight that, I think as you can all see, that's to do with transactions being processed. So this is now looking at overspending, but once we have this in place, it allows you to look at various other aspects of work completion, to detect repeated failures of the same asset. And, in the past, these things used to be things that you set up specific rules in the system for manually. And that's the beauty of the AI and machine learning, is that it will learn by itself, and you can feed it further information to improve on it. And that's really the value that this also starts to bring to us. So we're on the hour here. Let me say thank you to all the product owners that presented information today, and for all of you that stayed with us during the presentation and good questions asked. If there's any further things that you would want more information on, please, pop us a message and we'll get back to you. And remember about future interesting things that you would also like us to cover in the webinar, to let us know about that. Really appreciate your time. And hope you've got a wonderful Thursday afternoon or a Thursday morning. I see a couple of people from Brazil and from Mexico, etc. here as well. So good day to you all, and thanks a lot. Enjoy.